once everything has been finalised, the data use and protection statement will will cover the greenhouse gas side as well if there's anything that's different to how it was used before. But at the moment we're leaving that, but we will update that. The results summary, you will see the if you remember from before, it's very similar. We've just added a greenhouse gas and food waste generated summary lines to this. So for each of the 3 years that can be reported, there are tracking for greenhouse gas footprint and food waste generated by as well. So there's still some editing needed to be done with this. So for example, with the food waste, maybe I should share the demo version so you see the see with data. I'm sorry, I opened the wrong file. Bear with the computer for a few seconds. So if I go back to the results summary, you can see what the file might look like with some data in it. So where there are months that there's less or more, that you can see there that say this January 19 had less red meat per guest night, that sort of thing. And the charts, if we go to food waste, that it's split into what we've assumed is edible or inedible waste. So we've assumed that preparation waste in kitchens will be mostly inedible. So thinking that it's hard peels or bones in preparation before the meal is made, and that's inedible. And that you can see for each of the 3 years it has a different colour. Now, then you can see the split between the preparation waste for each month in each year. So this is 2019, 2020 and 2021. And then the edible part, which is the customer plate waste and the spoilage waste from the hotel kitchen or hotel stock, which we have assumed is edible, and that potentially is a little unclear, but at least it gives all of the data. There is a simplified one as well that I'm working on in the version that's not ready yet. The greenhouse gas footprint is a lot more similar to the other charts that you may have seen before, which is the kilograms of carbon equivalent for each guest night, and the 3 years of tracking in the tool have lines to see where 1 month in 1 year was worse or better than another. A new feature is printing a report on this. So we were requested to put in a more usable report feature for a hotel to print off to or send to their management or to the government. And the way that we've done this is as follows for each of the 3 years that are in the tool. So say we do 2020, you can select some highlights from all of the information that we've got. So if I put the meat use, the meat purchases and the plastics and energy, and click on print report. This uses the default printer, and for my my computer that's a print to PDF, but that might be in a hotel that might go to a printer. So that's printed out a PDF file, and you'll see the report here. So test there is just the name of the hotel, so that pulls through from the sheet that we can see behind here. So we can see the name of the hotel as test. And then on the report, it's got the test of the year, the date that we're printing the report, the number of guest nights. So there's the plastic. There's no total kilograms of meat in the data at the moment. So that's not showing through. But you can see the megajoules of energy used, and then some highlight graphs that we've selected as most important for the hotel. So that's a new feature. This sheet is the same as it was before. The same with energy and same with water. Waste, we have taken food waste out of here and put it into a separate tab. So this will be slightly different when in the final version, but essentially it's, as we talked about on the summary sheet, taking from the way that kitchens could separate out their waste and look at what's in some of the roadmap documents that you were working on with Boyana and has seen that there will be some food waste reporting as part of that, and that looks at edible and inedible. And as I said, we've assumed that the preparation waste will be inedible, and then the customer and spoilage waste will be edible. So you can look at both of those, and then there's a total. The other recommendation from the roadmap, as I recall it, is to be able to report internationally in accordance with agreed standards, and one of those is the Food Loss and Waste Accounting and Reporting Standard. And we acknowledge that some businesses may be further ahead and others won't be. If the business is able to report with more advanced food waste data, we've got a separate tab for this, which is based on the UK Target Measure Act framework. So as you can see, this is a lot more complicated in terms of where the waste is disposed to, and any sort of notes that will help someone who is a specialist in food waste to be able to interpret the data in a better way. So we've got that basic and advanced feature.
Sam, just a quick question. With the Target Measure Act approach that we've got in the UK, I'm just thinking there are some guidance notes as well associated with that toolkit, isn't there, around, the more kind of advanced data collection?
There are, and I think the reason I'm sorry to interrupt, I was thinking, I sort of anticipated your question of could we provide that guidance. I think what we've done is put the template there, the reporting template there as an option for people that basically say, I know what I'm doing. So we've decided not to put the guidance in as there should be other sources of guidance, so including in the roadmap and pointing to things. So it's more, if the company is already able to, then this is available, rather than this facilitating them doing it, if you see what I mean.
That makes sense.
But the point is a good one, that there is guidance available and we could link to it from here. The purpose was making it an option if they were already able. Yeah,
definitely. I just want to make clear that, we wouldn't expect the partners either in Philippines or Dominican Republic, that more complicated tab it wouldn't be that you should be an expert in kind of data collection on food waste.
Not at all.
Yeah, so don't feel like that's something that you need to understand in any depth. I guess the message is, if you do have those more advanced hotels, then there's the option. And in terms of guidance as well, we'll also be providing links to best practice, including the Target Measure Act toolkit in the resource efficiency guide, which will obviously be coming in the next few months. So I guess that's where the kind of the guide the roadmap, all the supplementing information can kind of connect with this tool, but you don't have to be an expert in all of these things to work with the hotels to collect the data.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's and to sort of back that up as well with going even more basic, that if the hotels are at a sort of more initial phase of trying to look at their food waste, we in the latest version, the one that's not ready yet, there is an additional option to select. There's a box here, a drop-down menu to select whether a company can split out its food waste. So here we've got the three different sources of waste from kitchens, and a company might not be able to do that yet, and we didn't want to prohibit them from measuring all of their food waste from kitchens. So just having one bin and measuring that, as we know that from experience that many hotels will, if they do want to get involved but want to do it in the easiest way possible, they would measure their total food waste rather than splitting out the sources. So we're giving an option to say the hotel can measure it only its total food waste, and in that case these three won't show. It will only be a total food waste line showing for entry, and I'm sorry that I can't show you that at the moment. It's the file needs to be finished. And then the food sales based, we've taken on board feedback that companies probably won't use it, but we've left it in anyway as an option, just in case there are hotels that want to. Usually it would be purchase based. So if I change to that, you'll see that there's the different way of doing things here. We're very well aware that this takes a long time to do, to set up at least. However, when we sent out that the survey earlier in the year about priority foods, there were very few options where people from the hotels said that the foods weren't priorities. So we've decided to leave all of the options in. There are maybe a couple where we could have removed them, but we didn't see the point of removing one or two options. Ultimately, the categories were, what's the difference of having 10 categories or 12 categories? That when there were some equivalents of how important they are in terms of their water footprint or carbon footprint. And if the hotel doesn't want to enter them, then they don't have to enter them. So that's what we've decided with that. So thank you again for facilitating the responses to that survey. Unfortunately, the results of it didn't help us narrow down anymore, even though that was what we wanted to do. The hotel said that pretty much all of the categories were priorities for them. So that's unfortunate. Moving on to another new feature we've brought in based on the requests to do plastics. And the way that we've done this is, rather than looking at the waste, which is obviously important, we've looked at purchases, again, because that's the resource use ultimately comes from how much plastic is coming into the hotel, despite whether that's then wasted or gone into the disposal routes. It will all be disposed of at some time. And the way that we've able to split out the more wasteful plastics from the less wasteful plastics is by looking at single use and multiple use, and that this can be the way to make sure that we're covering where a hotel is looking at its plastics use in a more environmentally friendly way. So the announcement that Marriott hotels would remove all of their single-use toiletries was welcome, but they'll have to be purchasing plastic dispensers. So if they were to use the resource efficiency tool to report, we might see the shampoo bottle going down in purchases, but then a big bulk purchase of plastic dispensers in 1 month. So 1 month might look really big in terms of the kilograms, but it would all be in multiple use. So the hotel can point to where it's cutting down on plastic overall. And the trend data would show there'd be a spike in 1 month, which was easily explained. The data summary is mainly for to help with reporting overall, and is less helpful for the hotel, which is why it doesn't look very nice. As you can see, it's not a well formatted. That's because it will make it easiest to just pull the data out and put into the project reporting database. Another new feature is the greenhouse gas footprint. And this, I'm not sure how many hotels will want to look at the different breakdown of their greenhouse gas footprint, but it is here if they do want to. We had a request to make sure that in the future, if say the Philippines increases its percentage of renewable electricity in the grid, that we can change the grid factor. So say in 2020 that there has been a large capacity of solar energy has come online in the Philippines. The new grid factor for 2020 can be edited for when it's released. So say the government will release a new grid factor for the Philippines in January 2020, or there's an academic study showing that the Philippines has a lower grid factor, that can go in for that month. So we've made that available, but it's not, it will, the whole sheet will work if we remove it. It just will go back to the default grid factor when we've created it. And I think that's pretty much it. So there's like the water footprint that we've had before, we've created a greenhouse gas footprint for food, just to show which are the highest impact foods on our total greenhouse gas footprint. So while we know that beef has a higher emissions factor, so you can see that it's almost 32 kilograms of carbon per kilogram of beef, that if your purchases for a hotel of grains are particularly high, your carbon footprint from grains might be higher. So in this case, say rice could be a larger contributor to your overall carbon footprint. And this will help you to see with hotels where they might be able to reduce their carbon footprint, even though there might be it might be worth saying, oh, at the start, look at beef or look at red meat. Once they start filling in the tool, they'll be able to see where their carbon footprint is. So like you were suggesting, Kiko, that it was hard to get mitigation options for food. After a few months of reporting into the resource efficiency tool, it will be relatively simple for you or a hotel to see where their carbon footprint and their water footprint is high and what they might be able to do to reduce that. And that's the tool as it is, and I'm very happy to take questions. I guess I'd just say that there is a conversion table at the back to help. So we have asked for, so energy is asked for in megajoules, and water is asked for cubic meters. And that sometimes a hotel will have its measurements in different units. So we've provided this conversion sheet to help convert into the required units. So yes, any questions for me or anything you'd like me to go into in more detail on the tool, I'm very happy to. And I hope that that was clear and that it will be a useful resource for you to work with these hotels and MICE companies in the future.
one thing just to add to that is that, Kiko, for your new colleagues, we obviously have the training that Sam and Catherine originally did on the kind of the old iteration of the resource efficiency tool. So I can send you the links to the Zoom recordings for those calls, just in case that's a useful, I guess, kind of building block, just to understand the context of this updated tool a bit more. So yeah, we have those resources, so I'm more than happy to send those over in case they would like a bit more kind of training so that they're up to speed, perhaps, Kiko, to where you're at with the kind of the use of the tool and your understanding.
Yeah, I believe the videos are on YouTube. There's a
Yes, you're right, Kiko. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be sharing that with them. And yeah, I'm just saying, we have it already. But yeah, thanks for offering though. And I see, they do need that for as an initial basis to know where it was before and where it is now. So, thank you, Sam, for presenting us and showing us the tool. We really, we're really amazed and on how it has evolved and the additional tabs to it, the additional features. So we really appreciate it, and we do see, I guess, our initial reaction is that well, since in the beginning, the RE tool did look more usable, more user-friendly. So adding the greenhouse gas and even the plastic, that's one thing that we really like seeing, and we hope, or we are also confident that the hotels might be interested in that as well. So just to clarify, this isn't the final tool yet.
No, but it looks very similar. There are only a few things I need to change, like extra notes to say. So I made a few comments on the food waste to say that we'd made the assumption that preparation waste was inedible. So you can see that there's an explanatory note here. And that I just need to make clearer that we're saying it's inedible. And putting extra explanation about what it means to comply with the food loss and waste accounting and reporting standard. I mentioned the drop-down option here to say whether the hotel or MICE company can report its food waste separately from the different sources or not. Those sorts of things. So it will look very similar to this, but just a little bit more information and a little bit more usability options for it. So it will be better, but look very similar.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Yeah, actually, on the waste types, this is actually perfect because our sister project, the Sustainable Diner, which is with WWF Philippines. They're conducting training for restaurants on how to separate these waste types. So preparation waste from customer plate, spoilage waste, and the total. So we already see how we can further work together with them. So more than just practicing to separate them, but also monitoring them in this tool. So we're excited to show this to them as well, if that's okay.
Yes, of course.
All right. But yeah, I did seem a bit lost in the advanced food waste data, and
yes.
So we're some food waste information. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. I guess by the looks of it, if we get the chance to explore it ourselves, maybe we'll have more questions or clarifications on it. So yeah, I just wanted to double check what was said right there. So
Yes.
um,
Thing to say on this, Kiko, is that for the advanced section, this is something like future proofing for the tool, because we know that from RAP's experience, a lot more can be done on food waste reporting and monitoring and thinking about the valorization of that food, and there's a lot that could be done. And so we put the option in to report information that's useful for that thinking, but we understand that probably this will be for a few years down the line.
yeah, okay.
And just to add to that, I should have mentioned before, in our PCA for this year, one of our deliverables is to provide a couple of kind of webinars on on food waste and data collection. So it's not something Sam would be doing, but it's obviously connected to kind of more advanced kind of measurement activity on food waste. I haven't had a chance to speak with Pablo and Helena about the timing of that session or, when they would like it. But I think it's kind of in line with what Sam was saying. It most probably isn't something that you'd have any hotels now that are ready to do, but we would like to provide some kind of capacity building training so that, it's starting to take maybe some more slightly advanced hotels on that journey. We'll kind of record that training session so that it might be used later down the line, or it's available as a kind of legacy training product, and that will be connected to the target, measure, act framework that Sam mentioned that we're delivering currently in the UK. So there will be some more training on food waste that RAP will do, but I just need to speak with Pablo and Helena about that a bit more. And it might be as you start to use the tool, depending on the kind of queries or the kind of challenges you're having, we could maybe use that training opportunity, I guess, to tailor it in the right way. So yeah, that is to come.
Yeah, okay. Looking forward to that. And we're also trying to see as well how can we after exploring it more, we intend to also have a discussion internally how we can already train our stakeholders. Like for example with the GACMO tool, it was difficult to just like share the tool and sort of do our best to explain or direct them along the tabs. So our approach was to actually collect raw data in a separate in templates that we've prepared in like Word documents, and then it was and then we would transfer it to the tool. So we hope. I mean, it did take us some time, but it's still looking at this tool, it is still user friendly, but maybe because we're already familiar with it, so we'll also share with you guys, and of course ask ask and share with you on how we can sort of launch it to train our stakeholders here.
Yeah, I think the design principle has always been where can we make this a tool that fulfills some data monitoring purposes for the project, but primarily is useful for the hotels and MICE companies themselves. So the idea is that they will use the template, the tool, independently of us. It just so happens that if they use it, it's useful for us as well. So if it isn't useful for them, then we've missed something. And the idea would be that collecting data in this tool, the resource efficiency tool, would be a good way for them to monitor their resources and use that in a way that they didn't feel like it was reporting to you, monitoring for their own purposes, and then just reporting to you incidentally.
Yeah. We do really appreciate the graph. So I hope that like the staff involved in the hotels, I'm sure they'll also very much appreciate that, so that they can be more interested. And yeah, can we take a look actually at the energy info? I just wanted to see, for example, because we have collected data using the GACMO, and more or less most of them filled up the energy part, but it wasn't on a monthly basis. It was like a one. They provided us the data in the value of the year. So in total,
Yes.
I'm just seeing. Yeah.
I think from my perspective is that if they have the data, they will have the data in somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it will be easy. I assume, because this is how in the UK you would have data for a hotel, that they would have it on a monthly or weekly basis. They wouldn't check once per year for, say, electricity or fuel consumption. They would know how much diesel they were purchasing or something on a less than, or more frequently than annual basis. So again, we were hoping that they would just use this tool to collect all of their information that they would have on a frequent basis. If they do, for whatever reason, only have annual data, then it is possible for them to just use divide each of their year totals by 12 and put it into each month. Now, that will not show us very much, but it will be better than nothing.
Yeah. We agree on that as well. So, okay. Yeah, we'll definitely get back to them, and yeah, first, it will definitely get back to them and hope to that they have monthly data of their energy. Can we go please go to the food waste basic? Oh, sorry, not the food waste. That one. Sorry, the food purchase base.
Yes.
So, if for example, there's a native food that does not follow the food category, is there any way that we can insert it, and if by chance that there's an emission factor with it, is there a way that we can add it to the tool, or should we share it with you first?
Please share it with us. I can't make any promises because it was quite hard to do the emissions for this anyway, but I would like to investigate if it's something that we could do to help that was straightforward. So do you have an example of the food in question?
I mean,
Native kangkong.
It's not at the top of my mind, but yeah, we've experienced questions from a few of the hotels that the food that a particular food that they purchase or even plant or grow, we can't seem to put it under one category. So
okay.
We'll get back to that, and we'll share that with you.
Yeah, please do. We would like to know, and if we can find an emissions factor for that, then we will. Obviously, the tricky thing with this is that, as I'm sure you appreciate, in order to make the tool usable for as many companies as possible, if an item, we decided not to use an emissions factor modifier for if the purchase was grown by the hotel or imported, and that this simplifies the tool considerably. Something we had received feedback from, I believe, from yourselves and also in the Dominican Republic, was that part of the problem with the Gasimo food input was all of the options about, is this food imported, where is it imported from, was it imported via freight or by air, by ship or by air, and all of these questions are too much. So we understand, and but this way it means that if a hotel does grow their own food, they probably will have an incorrect emissions factor, which isn't fair in the other sense. So we've made that compromise, but I hope that that's something that that you can appreciate and that it won't be a problem.
Yeah, we do appreciate it, of course, as well. We also. Yeah, I personally see that, maybe this will less questions, faster results, faster to the data. So it's safe to say, so the emission factors of these food items are global average. Is that how it is?
No, not in. It depends on the food. So where's the? I'll show you. So this will be hidden for the hotels in the final version, but we take, it depends on the food. So there's global average for most of them, but for the meat we have location specific, and then for Philippines we've got, and Dominican Republic, we've got some weightings for where in theory most of the production, most of the consumption in the country, where that meat comes from, and we've just done it for lamb and for beef as the highest impact foods in theory. So you can see for beef that we've got a weighting of that we've got 21% coming from East and Southeast Asia, 32% coming from Australia, and 31% coming from the South Asia, with a little bit coming from Brazil in this factor here. So that's how we've tried to account for differences in imports where it seemed to make the most sense, although there will be some issues, I suppose, with the different factors. Say rice might be an issue in particular compared to a sort of global average, that the specific rice for the Philippines might be something that could be changed. And I'm sort of loath to do it because we don't have the information easily available to do that. But if it is very important, we can look into it.
Okay. All right. I see. Thank you for showing that. Okay. I guess that's the questions that we have at the moment. We'll maybe once we explore it in detail with the actual Excel file, we'll let you know if we have anything else to clarify. We would also so right now we would like, I forgot to mention one quick update. We recently met with a academic institution that was interested in the idea of greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the tourism industry. So they've actually offered or presented to us that they would like to turn it into a online platform, like in a website, or turn it into a online application. So their first interest was in the GAFMO tool, but I did also mention to them that there will be a updated version of the RE tool, which includes greenhouse gas emissions. So,
Okay.
like, can I get your thoughts on this? And you, Fionn, like, on their proposal to study the tool, make it into a website or an application, and hope to like further disseminate this tool in as it is to other parts of the Philippines.
I think that's really interesting, Kiko. It was obviously something that came up, was it earlier this year or last year? I can't remember now. When Helena and Pablo were speaking with at.to about creating, an online version of the tool. I think from RAP's side, we don't have budget necessarily to work with somebody externally, even if they're paying to kind of create an online version of the tool. We don't have budget at the moment to work with someone to facilitate it because it would require that. But it's not to say that if that's something that UN Environment wanted to pursue, that we couldn't do it next year. I don't know, Sam, from a more kind of technical point of view, would you see any kind of obstacles if somebody did want to take this forward? I mean, ultimately, it's the property of UN Environment, this tool. So
they would have to decide. I should make clear as well that the greenhouse gas footprint is a combination of DTU's work and RAP's work. And emissions factors that we've used have come from a few sources, but the bulk of it comes from Poor et al.'s study on food supply chain emission factors. I don't think there's a problem technically from doing it. I'm aware that potentially an academic institution might have different standards of its footprinting that the tool might not comply with. So from the perspective of a hotel, does a hotel need that level of standard to show where it's monitoring its greenhouse gases and reducing that? No, it doesn't. Does the academic institution need to do that? Yes, because it doesn't get past its academic review board or whatever. Those are the only things that I can see being a problem. So if you can see here that this is a partial estimate of greenhouse gas emissions, so that works from the perspective of this project for these countries, that, as Fionn said, we might need to have some time if UN Environment were amenable to this suggestion to work with the academic institution to explain the limitations and show sources, those sorts of things. I think it's a great idea. I should have started with that. It's fantastic that another institution would like to develop this, and if there's a way that this tool can be helpful to do that, that's brilliant. It's always good to start a piece of work that becomes bigger with more engagement with other institutions, that takes it beyond its original intention for the better of everyone.